But another thing coming out of this documentary, I thought, is that there's an interesting parallel that could be drawn between when Michael Jordan came into the league and modern day when Steph Curry came into the league, right? The debate and the comparison we always hear that, of course, we're even hearing today in some talk shows, I've seen on Twitter already, the debate is raging on who is still the GOAT, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Classic. We will not do this on the show because that debate ends just like every political debate ends. People get mad at each other. There's no winner. There's no real answer. And all it does is end screaming. So we're not going to do that. But that is, the common reference point. That is the common debate. Who's the better player, LeBron James or Michael Jordan? And I'm not saying Steph Curry belongs in this conversation. But it's interesting that Steph Curry is very similar to what Michael Jordan was doing in a way that really, LeBron James could never do. And that is change the way the game is actually played. Jordan bent the game to his will, and the league adjusted to him. Steph Curry, when he came into the league, bent the game to his will, and the league now adjusted to his style of play. And again, in a way that LeBron James never really was able to do. And here's what I mean by that. So Michael Jordan, he enters the league. And it's funny because early on in the documentary, you hear basically all of these current NBA stars basically saying, Michael's great, this hype is cool, but he's not going to carry a team. He's not a big man. This is a big man's game. He's a nice player, but he's 6'6". He's not going to carry the team. He's not going to be he's not going to be the guy to turn the Bulls around. You had Walt Frazier talking in an interview saying, quote, Michael's got to realize he's not 7 foot, so he's not going to carry a team in the NBA. You had Mark Eaton saying, quote, one man can't turn a team around. You even had the Bulls' own general manager, the guy who drafted Michael Jordan, and Rod Thorne come out and say, quote, we wish he was 7'1", but he isn't, end quote. So you had all this stuff, all this concern that, he's only 6'6", with a player that's short, he can be a nice player, but he's not going to be the face of the franchise. He's not going to turn the Bulls around. He's not going to make them a winner. And obviously Michael Jordan not only proved them wrong very quickly. And he changed the game because, again, this thinking was you have to have a big man as the center of your team, as the face of your franchise, basically as the pillar, right? You had Will Chamberlain. You had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You had the first 2 picks before Jordan in Hakeem Olajuwon and Sam Bowie, both over 7 feet. The big man was the play back in the 80s and the early 90s. No, I really should say the 80s, and even before that, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was about size. It was getting it down low. Because if you had a bigger man, it's hard to defend. And obviously, layups and paint play, post play was so important compared to what it is now. So MJ comes into the league and basically again, flips that narrative on his head to where now he shows he can be the face of the franchise. He can be a pillar. He can lead a team, and he can lead a team that wins championships. So now teams start to draft and start to realize, okay, you don't have to be 7 foot for us to have a chance to win a title. You don't have to be 7 foot for us to have a franchise guy to be the leader going forward and be the guy to have us win a championship. No. Michael Jordan changed all of that and changed that thinking. So by the time we get into the 90s and 2000s, again, you're having people like Kobe Bryant, you're having guys like LeBron James lead franchises that aren't 7 feet tall, that aren't monsters down low in the paint, that can hit jump shots, that can get to the rim, that can drive hard to the lane. They can do all of that. And that was due in part because Michael Jordan changed the way the game is played and changed the way general managers and teams built their teams. Because now all of a sudden it was not about the big man. And as we see, the floor gets more spaced and more spaced and more spaced. Enter Steph Curry, drafted in 2009, just like Michael Jordan when he was drafted. Not much hype. There was some excitement. They were thinking, this could be a good player. Right? Steph Curry goes number 9, MJ goes number 3. And you heard early on in the documentary, Rod Thorne would have taken Hakeem if the Bulls had the number 1 pick. There was some excitement about Michael Jordan, but they had zero idea he would be anything close to the player he became. I think similar to Steph Curry, right? He's drafted in 2009. We know about his NCAA tournament run at Davidson. He has some hype, but he's a small player. He's, a perimeter player. Can he really be the face of the franchise? Can he really lead a team? There was some doubts. And even back then, back in 2009, the game was different. Today's day and age, it's about spacing, three-point shooting, right? Your teams like the Rockets take it to the extreme where only take three-pointers and layups. But analytics have come into the game partly because of Steph Curry's play, and they realize the three-point shot is more efficient than a 2-point mid-range jumper. And to highlight that, back in 2011, 2012, right? You had Ryan Anderson, led the NBA. He had 166 threes that year in 11 and 12. So just, again, just as Steph Curry is really starting to become his own, he's had a few years in the league, he's starting to become his own. 4 years later, so just 4 years later, back in 2015, 2016, Steph Curry shatters that three-point record for a season. He hits 402 in a season that the Warriors win 73 games. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because in that year, 2015, 2016, just 4 years after Ryan Anderson led the league with 166 threes, Steph Curry changed the game because you had 17 players just 4 years later in 2015, 2016 who had more than 166 threes. 17 players with more than the leader of threes in a season 4 years prior. So just in that 4 year time span, you had the game completely change, and the Warriors really revolutionized, led and spearheaded by Steph Curry, of the perimeter game, shooting threes, shooting volume threes. So now, again, where you see this game, it's all about three-point shooting and layups. Get to the hole, get to the rim, or take a three. You had 27 players just this past season in 2018, 2019 that had more than 166 threes. So really, in the span of a few years, right, you had the game still being bullied, down low in the paint. You still have to have a big man presence. Still getting to the hole, still having mid-range jumpers was very important. Kobe Bryant really was the face of that as well. He had so many turnaround, mid-range elbow jumpers. And now just a few years, Steph Curry comes in. The game has completely changed to where now you almost get laughed at and mocked at if you're going to shoot a mid-range elbow jumper. It's viewed as inefficient. It's viewed as not necessary. Just in those few years, the game has completely flipped on its head and changed, spearheaded and led by Steph Curry. And now, like I said, you have centers going out and shooting threes. You have Anthony Davis, who's over 7 feet, shooting threes. The game has changed. And now, really, centers are more valuable if they can shoot threes. And they're looked at, differently if they are just post players and can't get out and space the floor. So Jordan was able to change the game when he came into the league, showing the NBA it's really not necessary to have, a big man, or you can win, I should say, without having a big man as your main focus, as your franchise guy, as your go-to number one option. Jordan changed the game that way, showing a 6'6" guard was able to lead a team to championships, which is a thinking that was not possible and not thought highly of back then in the 80s. Enter Steph Curry, again, in the 2009 he's drafted, and a few years later, the NBA changes their game to Steph Curry, and now all we see is threes. All over the place, it's raining down threes. So they changed the game. Jordan and Curry both changed the game. LeBron, again, one of the best ever play. But he was able, with his size, with his speed, with his strength, with his athleticism, to take advantage of the way the game is played, and he's able to mold his game, right? He started off going to the hole hard. His jump shot was shaky. He really couldn't shoot threes. He was not a great shooter when he first came into the league with the Cavaliers. He improved that markedly to where he is a knockdown three shooter. He could take a jump shot, and you are confident going in. But he's able to mold his game to how the game was evolving around him. Both Jordan and Curry changed the way the game is played, and the game itself changed to their styles, let alone the other way around. So I'm curious, would you agree with this comparison? Would you put Steph Curry in the same category as Michael Jordan? Not in terms of greatness of play. I'm not trying to say Steph Curry is one of the best of all time, or put Steph Curry in this LeBron MJ debate. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to say and put a parallel to Michael Jordan changed the game when he came into the league. I'm putting Steph Curry in that same category as from when Steph came into the league, the game changed. The game absolutely changed, and teams and organizations cater to their strengths rather than vice versa.